Good evening. The police commissioner has fought back tears as he paid tribute to a decorated officer who died in yesterday's high-speed smash at Urbray. 55-year-old Joanne Shanahan was one of two women killed when a young driver allegedly ran a red light, leaving a scene of chaos and carnage.
Detective Chief Superintendent Joanne Shanahan, decorated cop, devoted wife, adoring mother.
We lost one of our finest senior police officers.
Grant Stevens has delivered a lot of sad news in his role, but this was different. This was personal.
And sadly, The real tragedy of road fatalities has been brought home to South Australia Police yesterday.
Joanne and her husband Peter, himself a retired detective, were at the intersection of Fullerton and Cross Roads yesterday afternoon when another driver ran a red light. These are the first frantic moments that followed.
000, please.
Witnesses say the VW was on the wrong side of the road and became airborne before slamming into the Shanahan's Holden and a BMW, killing that driver too. Somehow Peter Shanahan made it out alive.
It's just so unfair and it should not have happened.
Behind the wheel of the ute, 20-year-old Harry Kitt, seen here being stretchered from the scene with shocking leg injuries. This afternoon, investigators arrived at his family's home just 2 kilometres from the crash scene to interview his parents. They're investigating if he had suffered a mental health episode here in the lead-up to the collision. Neighbours say he arrived at the house shortly before the crash in unusual circumstances, driving his parents' VW erratically onto the front lawn. A friend called an ambulance, but before paramedics arrived, Harry sped off down Cross Road. Moments later, unimaginable carnage.
I've been to many crash scenes, but yesterday was one of the most horrific crash scenes I've ever attended.
Overnight, investigators had the grim task of examining the scene from every devastating angle.
And I'm still concerned about the officers who had to deal with that particular incident.
In a career spanning almost 40 years, Joanne Shanahan became one of the force's most decorated officers. Chillingly, while serving as acting assistant commissioner last year, she made this impassioned road safety plea.
We are sick of having to deliver that death message, go to that funeral, or say to someone that their father is not coming home.
But it was her work in the domestic violence field that earned her admiration and respect across the state.
She was very knowledgeable, and but when it came to work, she was a hard-working and very dedicated woman. And if it wasn't because of her, we as a state would be left behind in terms of caring for our domestic violence victims.
Grieving too, the family of 53-year-old mother Tanya McNeil, killed behind the wheel of her BMW. Her devastated husband told 7 News she was driving home yesterday after making a delivery for the family business. Their 14-year-old son was meant to go with her, but had slept in.
No one leaves their driveway thinking they're going to be involved in a serious collision. No one thinks about this being the last day that they're going to be alive.
Mark Mooney, 7 News.
And Mark, major crash investigators are tonight back at the scene.
They are, Jess. As you can see, they've shut down this intersection for a second night, essentially because the weather was so bad last night that they couldn't complete their investigation. So here they are back here now, taking their measurements, making their markings on the road as they try and piece all of this together. As for the 20-year-old driver of the Volkswagen ute, Harry Kitt, he remains in the RAH tonight with those serious leg injuries. Investigators are obviously desperate to speak with him as they try to work out exactly what happened in the lead up to the crash. That interview, of course, will be crucial to this investigation, Jess.
Thanks, Mark.